piggybacking off of the excellent NBC coverage, the dramatic and controversial finish, hey, let's turn it into something we can use. A draft of the most controversial finishes in NFL history. And in doing my research last night, I'm amazed how many there are. How do you narrow it down to 3 each? We're going to find out. And now is the time when you get to call tails, and it's going to be tails. It's more rigged than the Kentucky Derby was, although the Kentucky Derby wasn't. I just said that. Go ahead and call tails.
Tails. It was heads. It was heads on Thursday, and I called heads. I know my girl Kristen back
You've
there.
You've cracked the code.
I did.
You're like the guy on Jeopardy, man. You've cracked the code.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I know when she's feeling sorry for you just enough to when that's when I need to call heads. So, okay, here we go. I think this one is it's a hard first pick here. I'm going to go with the tuck rule as the most controversial ending to a football game. Yeah, I'm going to go there. What more because
that's the obvious one. There's nothing hard about it. That's the obvious one.
Well, there's the one that just happened this year that's pretty obvious too, maybe more obvious. I mean, and that's where you're going to go next. So to blow your pick away right there, I went with the better one. So here we go. But the tuck rule, I mean, none of us have really ever known of it or knew what the rule meant or how it existed. And of course, here we are in the 2001 AFC divisional playoff game, the snow game, Adam Vinatieri's famous kick and all of that. Gosh, the Oakland Raiders are winning a football game, and Tom Brady and the New England Patriots are moving down the field. And up to that point, we had seen nothing but Tom Brady be clutch and every moment that it was asked of him that year. And all of a sudden, his old college buddy comes off the edge and hits him as he is standing there / maybe just, pump the ball. But, of course, that taught us all about what the tuck rule was there. And to live by the letter of the law, the referees got the call right. But we just knew nothing about it at the time. And to the naked eye and the viewer, it certainly looked like a throwing of a fumble on the field to where the Raiders recovered, and it looked like the game was going to be over. But the tuck rule comes about. We know that Vinatieri kicks the field goal to win it or tie it, then win it later on, and then, of course, starts the Patriots dynasty run. So that's why it's not only a huge controversial moment, but it's set up the greatest dynasty we've seen in the history of the NFL to this point.
I still think they'd be pretty good if they hadn't won that game. I still think that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick would have found a way to continue to win games and win at a high level. But, I like that pick because it reminds me of what happened on Saturday. It was the correct application of a rule that most people weren't aware of. Right. Now, in the NFL, it was a very obscure rule. In horse racing, it's just most people aren't aware of the rules because they only watch the Triple Crown races. But it's that same sense of what the hell just happened, and it turns out it was accurate. It turns out that it was proper, and it turns out the NFL quietly got rid of the tuck rule about 12 years later, so it wouldn't be too conspicuous that they realized, this is probably not a good rule. We probably should change it. So, to me, that was the obvious first pick. I'm surprised it was even close for you, and you're right. The second pick, and it happened so recently, I feel like there should be more of a historical angle to it, but I think this is one we'll be talking about for decades to come. Saints-Rams NFC Championship game. More consequential than yours because a berth in the Super Bowl was on the line. And to have Tommy Lee Lewis, the Saints receiver, who I think has since signed with the Lions, get wiped out by Nickel Roby-Coleman. Roby-Coleman was so badly out of position. He ran across the field knowing his only play was to wipe out Tommy Lee Lewis. He fully expected to be penalized, and he wasn't. That was the stunner. And the more I see it, the more astounded I am that they didn't throw the flag. They blew it. The Saints would have had the ball first and goal inside the 5. If they score a touchdown, it makes it much more difficult for the Rams to force overtime. The Rams do force overtime. They win the game. They move on and ultimately lose the Super Bowl amid historic low ratings in New Orleans. People just did not want to watch that game, and I can understand why they didn't want to watch it.
Yeah, I get it. It was brutal. I mean, it really was. It stung for Saints fans, and it stung for any NFL fan altogether because it did. It felt like it tainted the Super Bowl a little bit. The Rams had to answer all these questions. Do you think you guys really deserve to be here? All of that. So I certainly didn't like that. And then added added to the fact that the game was a little bit of a dud. I don't think anybody would deny that, as far as 13-3 and lacks sexy moments or big moments in the football game, to where I think a lot of people look at it and go, man, I think the Saints-Patriots would have been a better Super Bowl or maybe more exciting. And I think that adds to it too. But I'm not mad with that pick. That certainly makes a lot of sense. I'm going to go to a similar scenario, okay? I'm going to the NFC Championship game, the 1990 season, the Bert Emanuel rule, right? It's really the Bert Emanuel rule. Here's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 1999 NFC Championship game. They're in St. Louis. They're playing the greatest show on turf, and Kurt Warner, they're down 13-6. There's under a minute left in the game. They're driving down the field. Bert Emanuel catches a ball over the middle of the field, arms extended, has control of the ball from get-go, never loses control, nothing. But the ball hits the ground. And at the time, if the ball touched the ground, it was considered an incomplete pass. And then we know now that that rule has been changed. As long as you show that you still have control of the football can touch the ground. Well, this was the moment that changed all of that. And yes, then it set up the Rams to go on and Kurt Warner to win the MVP of the Super Bowl against the Tennessee Titans and all of that. But that certainly is a moment that I will never forget, sitting there going, wow, the greatest show on turf. Whoa, they're really struggling against this awesome Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. And this quarterback I've never heard of, Sean King, who, keeps playing good. At the time, he just wasn't a household name, but played clutch in some big moments at the end of the year. And, of course, was showing that he was going to be clutch again. And the Bert Emanuel rule came back to strike them in the butt.
Well, and here's the thing. Now, if you go back and watch the Bert Emanuel play, it wasn't as clean as I think we believe in hindsight. There was some movement of the ball, but it did spawn the rule change that allowed the ball to touch the ground. And that is what sparked years of confusion and uncertainty about what the hell a catch is. So this is a controversy that launched 1,000 other controversies over the course of the last 20 years. But, at the time, it was just, hey, that's the rule. I don't know that was a controversial finish because it was accepted. So I'm going to throw the challenge flag on you for that one, because no one said, oh, no, wait a minute, what's going on here? No, it was the rule. Hey, sorry, Rams, that's the rule. I mean, sorry, Bucks, that's the rule. It's not a catch. But it was the rule change that created the controversy. So you're kind of in the wrong pew of the right church on this, because I don't remember that outcome being controversial. It's just the NFL decided to react to it by changing the rule, and I'm surprised they did in hindsight, because it's not like people were losing their minds about that rule. I don't remember that, we have to change this rule. I was surprised they changed the rule. I like it, Chris, that it's an incomplete pass if the ball touches the ground. I mean, that should be the litmus test. If the ball touches the ground, it's not a catch.
No, I don't agree with that. Again, when you're playing football and you have control of the football and grown men are knocking you all over the place, there's a lot of times you catch the ball and you're going to take a catch away from a guy if the point of the ball just scrapes the ground, even though it shows it's securely in your hands. That's what happened there. There was controversy then. People still talk about it. So as much as you want to try to downplay my great second-round pick, it was good, and deal with it.
In baseball, if the ball touches the ground, is it a catch?
I mean, if we were talking about the same sport, I would answer an intelligent, dumb question like that, but I'm not going to. Good try.
All right. I'm going to go from that same round of the playoffs, the team that made it to the Super Bowl that year. The team made it to the Super Bowl in part because it managed to win a wild card game off of what appeared to be a forward pass at the time, the Music City Miracle. That was something that there is still hard feelings about. Wade Phillips, who was the coach of the Bills at the time, not pleased with the ruling. And I remember watching that live.
Yeah.
Where at the time the replay review was done on the field, the booth was pressed up against the railing, and you could, as the referee was in there, you could see all these Titans fans clustered around right above it like, these guys want to get out of here alive. Do you really think they're going to overturn that call and give the game to Buffalo? Heck no. They ruled it as a lateral, and the touchdown throw from Frank Wycheck to Kevin Dyson ended up counting on that last-ditch kickoff return, and the Titans would parlay that into a Super Bowl appearance against the Rams, who ultimately would win the game. All right, we got to take a break, Chris. We got 2 rounds down. When we return, round 3 of the most controversial finishes in NFL history. We'll do that when PFT Live continues right after this.
I didn't get a chance to rebuke that pick.
Chris, I didn't give you a chance to poo-poo my pick of the Music City Miracle. What can you say bad about the controversy that was the Music City Miracle?
It's just you I want to argue against, okay, there, Johnny Lawyer, okay, Johnny Law School, because you argue about mine not being that controversial, and then you pick a game where the guy legally ladders the ball backwards. No rule ever gets changed or nothing.
Ask Wade
Phillips. Say that's fine. Oh, gosh. If Wade said so, then geez, okay. All right. I just wanted to do that. I wanted to be a lawyer too, like you, okay? All right, so my third pick to win this draft by a mile will be the San Francisco 49ers, New York Giants wild card game with the 2002 season.
Yeah,
I hear someone groaning in my ear. I think that was Stats who just went, oh, yes. Well, the 49ers made a magical comeback. They were down 38-14. They come back to take the lead 39-38 against the New York Giants and Kerry Collins and Jeremy Shockey. Well, Kerry Collins drives the team down the football field to get in field goal position. If you remember, it's kind of a botch snap on the field goal. The placeholder stands up, runs around, tells some guys to go down the field for a pass. He ends up throwing a pass to a person that is eligible receiver down the field. Clearly blatant pass interference on the intended receiver with the pass from the placeholder, and it was not called because the referees weren't sure if that was truly a legitimate downfield legal target, and they didn't know, and therefore the 49ers won the game, where really the Giants should have been granted penalty yards and another chance to kick that field goal to win the football game. That was a huge moment. I think we forget about it sometimes because it wasn't an NFC Championship game or anything like that, but certainly a pretty big deal.
All right, Giants fan, are you done?
I'm done.
All right. That one was on my list, but it was way down. You blew it. You allowed your Giants homerish tendencies to influence you. Maybe. When there were plenty of other choices you could have made. You could have gone Fail Mary. I'm not, but you could have gone Fail Mary. You could have gone with the Holy Roller from back in the 70s, which changed the rules about advancing fumbles.
Right.
You could have gone with the snowplow game from 1982 when
all
the Patriots had a guy
games,
on work release. I'm just saying what you could have done still better. Here's one that, and this is a regular season game, but I am still taking it because it fits with the manner in which this rigged witch hunt of a coin toss continues to be slanted against me. I have to go back to 1998 to the Thanksgiving Day game, the early game. The Steelers at the Lions when Phil Luckett got the coin toss wrong. Jerome Bettis either said heads or tails, and Phil Luckett said the other one and insisted that Bettis said what he didn't say. The Lions won the toss, went down the field, kicked a field goal, won the game, and walked off the winners, all because Phil Luckett didn't hear Jerome Bettis call the correct coin toss. So that has to be. Given that the coin toss continuously screws me every time we do one of these drafts, it had to be in there.
Well, it is a great one. I actually wanted to pull it up and look at the video real quick because, if I remember correctly, did Jerome Bettis kind of say both? Am I wrong there, or did he clearly say one? Like, am I off base here all the way? I just felt like I thought it was pretty clear he said one, but they changed the rule as a result of it. You now have to pick the heads or tails while the coin is in the palm. Right.
You choose before. It used to be call it in the air, and that's what happens when you call it in the air. You can have that moment of confusion, and the coin's in the air. You have to make a pretty quick decision then. But there was something weird where it may not have bbeen entirely clear, but Luckett just should have done it again. If there's any doubt, they should have done it again.
I'm actually got to listen to it. I'm sorry. I got it pulled up here. I won the draft, so there's no point discussing that. And give me one.
All right, you picked you picked the Tuck rule. They were all up there for a second. Now I got to check them here. The Tuck rule, the Bert Emanuel game, the 2002, the very memorable Giants 49ers 2002 wild card game. I've got the Rams and the Saints no call, the Music City Miracle, and the coin toss in the Thanksgiving Day game from 1998 between the Steelers and the Lions. So I won this one.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.